Heads up people, this is Christy from 52 Hider 3D with the first tutorial of the new year, so happy 2014, even though it is nearly the end of January. Today I'm going to start the series I promised last year about motion tracking and camera tracking, etc. So this is the first part of the tutorial in which we're going to go over how to take video that's suitable for tracking, and how to make a simple planar track like this one here. This was a furniture company advertising board, and as you can see I've put my new logo onto it, just using planar tracking, no going through everything frame by frame or anything. So this is what we're going to create, so I'll pause this and show you how to get started. So let's go over how to take video that's suitable for tracking. Now, a computer to track video needs very clear, high resolution, crisp footage. If there's any blur, it can't get a lock on the specific target points. So it's very important that you get the camera settings right before starting to track. So as you can see, this one on the left here was taken at 1080p, which is full HD, 25 frames a second, and the frame rate was, no, sorry, not the frame rate, the shutter speed was set at 500ths of a second. And as you can see, this is quite crisp, and as I scroll through it, there's not much blurring that you can see. This one, on the other hand, although the resolution and the frame rate were the same, the shutter speed was set to a 30th of a second. And with this, you can see there's much more blurring, and if you look just there, you can see you can hardly read that, and the camera's not going to be, the computer's not going to be able to get a decent lock on the footage for you to be able to track it. So when you're shooting your video, make sure it's in the highest resolution possible. If you've got manual settings on your camera, go for a high shutter speed, so anything above sort of 200th of a second should be okay. If it starts getting dark, you can of course lift the ISO slightly, which will make your footage slightly grainier, but is better than having blurry footage. Another thing that you can also see, or you can also do, is if I just open this one up, this one, and this is actually the one we're going to be using. With this one, I set it to 720p, so standard HD, but I also set the frame rate to be 50 frames a second rather than 25. So it's doubling the number of frames that it takes every second. And this really helps to get a clear track and makes sure there's hardly any blurring at all. So if your camera can do this, it's probably worth sacrificing full HD in order to get that faster frame rate. And this is the video we're going to be using for the track. You can see it's the Anderson and England winter sale, and I'm going to replace this and put my own logo in there, the 52 Hider 3D logo. So now we've sorted out how to get the right footage. Let's close all these and close this. Bring up a new scene in Blender and instantly go to the motion tracking layout. So now we have this, which is our video editor, and I'll find the video. If you don't actually want to video anything yourself, I will be putting this on the online and you'll be able to download it. Just check the links in the description. So here we go, 720p, 50 frames a second, 5/100th of a second. Okay, now this video is quite long and we don't actually want to track all of it, but there's one more important thing to do before we go into that. We need to change the footage, the render settings, so that they match our source footage. So if you go into the properties panel, we took this at 720p, so HDTV 720p, and at 50 frames a second, so change the frame rate to 50. And that will just ensure we don't get any weird crop factors, or everything won't feel slowed down or anything. We also need to find out how far along this video goes, because Blender doesn't automatically change the timeline to doesn't change the start and end to the start and end of the video. So I know this video is 29 seconds long, so if in the end I go 29 times 50, which is the frame rate, we should get roughly how long the video is. And let's just scrub around there a bit until we can find where it exactly is. There it is. End is frame 1469. So by previous experimentation, I found that the best part of the video for tracking was from frame 600. So I'm going to put frame 600 into there, to frame 1000, and put it end into there. Now we need to pre-cache all these frames into the RAM cache so that Blender doesn't slow down too much. If you haven't already done so, you need to go into your system preferences and change the memory cache limit to however much you can afford. I've got 8 GB of RAM in this computer, so I can let it have 6 GB, I think, safely for caching the frames, but for default it's something ridiculously low, so make it at least 2 gig. So let's now just press P and it will prefetch the frames, and you can see the purple bar goes across and we've loaded them in. And how much RAM am I using? Not too much, okay. Seems to be fine. Right, so how tracking works is it takes high contrast points, which are basically points that the computer can look for in every single frame of the video, and it tracks their location through the entire video. So it's probably better just to get on with it rather than trying to explain it. So if we find a high contrast point, which is basically something obvious, so let's just take the top of this W here, just here, and hold down Control and click to add a marker, a tracking marker. You can see we've got the detailing just there, so we can move this around just until it's in exactly the right place. Choose about there. And if we go down to tracking settings, we want to change the speed of the tracking so it's real time, so that we can see what we're doing and it doesn't do everything really fast. So now we've got that in place, I'm going to press Control T to track the point, and it should run through the video. And there, if we go back to the beginning and play through, you'll see that that tracking point now follows that exact point on the video. That one was a very easy one and it didn't require any fixing at all. So let's go back to the beginning, press Shift and left, and find another point to track. When I first started doing tracking, I thought the more tracks you had the better, and the accuracy didn't matter, and that was where I went wrong. The fewer tracks you have, to a large extent, the better. I mean, you can get, you want 4 for a planar track, and you can get away with as low as 7 for, is it 7 or 8 for a camera track, and you want them to be as accurate as possible. So quality is better than quantity in this case. So let's just take this top of the A and track this. If you press L, it will lock the the viewport to that particular track. And you see at this point it's gone red and we've not finished yet, which means we've lost the track. So if we go to the previous frame, see what happened, and then go forward one just so we can see where exactly it lost the track, and then we can select this tracking marker and move it to where we think it should have been, which is just there. Go back and forth a bit just to check it's in the right place. Move it down a bit, okay, and then maybe it will get a better track from now on. Let's Control T again. Yep, didn't have any problems. So let's go back, play through the track. Yep, that's fairly solid. You can see it's sticking to exactly the same point all the time. And that's good. If it wobbles around, you won't get an accurate track, and everything will go slightly skew-if. Right. So that's 2 down. We need to do another 2. What else have we got? We could take the top of this L. Like that. And Control T. Some points just won't track very well at all, and sometimes they'll jump between different points. So when I tried putting one on this, the dot of the eye, but it kept jumping down because it thought that was the dot of the eye. It couldn't tell the difference. If you get that, you can move it over for every frame where it thinks it's got it wrong, just by the same method as we did for that. But it's generally better if you've got a good track, if you've got other markers, just to choose somewhere else for the track. So let's try here. Center of that dot. And I wasn't at the beginning. You always need to be at the beginning of the video when you're placing a marker. There we go. Try this again. This is where the crisp foot, and we've lost the track again. See here, it jumped and it thinks that's the same as that. Not really sure why. So let's go and put it right. This is obviously in the wrong place, but it thinks it isn't. So if we move it back over here on that particular frame, just by pressing G, and you can grab it and move it like anything else. Press. If we just go through a few frames, if you press Alt and right, it will track one frame individually, rather than, yeah, it seems to be okay now, and press Control T just to run through the track, and that's fine. So we now have 4 different tracks, quite well spread over the board. So now we can actually get a proper track done, and I'll just go into and save this before it crashes on me, which when you've got a lot of video it sometimes does, just because it can't cope with the size. So now make sure you've got the very latest version of Blender in order to do this. I think it only came in version 2.69. and this is the plane tracking technology. So select all your 4 points, so press A twice and you can select all of them, and click Create Plane Track. And this creates a box just around the tracking points, and if you press Alt A, you'll see it has locked itself to the tracks, and the box moves with the tracking markers. But the cool thing about this is that you can move the box. So I'm going to move one corner over there, and for some reason you just do this by clicking and dragging. You don't right click and drag or press G. Put that into that corner, and that into that corner, this into this corner, that one into that corner. Okay, and now if we press Alt A and play again, you'll see it still locks to the corners rather than skewing all over the place. And from this data of where the tracking markers are, it's calculated how much everything should move. So this is a fairly simple track, and planar tracking is just 4 simple tracks, simple 2-dimensional tracks that allow you to place 2D items onto 2D video. So it's not for complicated 360 spins of stuff. That's camera tracking and is a lot more complicated, but I will be showing you how to do that in a later video. So now we've got this track and it's all set up. What do we do with it? Well, we jump over to the compositor and we can get rid of that. Check use nodes and get rid of the render layers because we won't need that. Add a viewer node, and this UV image editor can be our viewer. There we go. Then add input movie clip, and from there we select the movie clip that our tracking is on, and add a new node which is for planar tracking only, under distort plane track deform. And then again we open our movie clip. From this select camera and plane track. Then pipe the video into the plane track and the plane track image into the composite, and I'll just add a reroute there and also into the viewer. And I've made a slight mistake there, but it doesn't matter. Cut this so we don't need that, and add an image texture. Not an image texture, just an image. And open a new image. And I'm going to find the image that I want to put on, which is my logo. Where are we? Channel stuff, 2014, logo, there we go. And now pipe that image into there, like so. And you can see it's distorted that image so that it fits in with the plane track. You can see they should be pretty much the same. Yep. Let me do that. There you see. And as you play through, it will change. So, how do we make this useful? We can add a mix node, like so. And is that in the right place? Yes. Put that image into the bottom there. And actually, sorry, not a mix node. What am I thinking? Oh yes, sorry, right. Yes, we do want a mix node, sorry. Mix node, yeah, that's all alright. And then into, let's just composite this. into the factor value, we want to pipe the plane value of this, which is basically just a mask that goes around the area of the box. And if we flip these around, will we get a better? There we go. So the background video goes into the top image, the deformed image goes into the bottom, and the deformed plane goes into the factor. So now if you would render this, you would get this sticking quite nicely to the to where it needs to. Obviously I've done a bit more to this one, and you can see I've color corrected it so that it fits. I'll just show you the nodes briefly for that. Here we go. Here we go. See, I've made it a little more complicated here. Quite a lot more complicated actually. I've just put a bit of a cloud texture and mixed it with the image, so you get that you get this slightly mottled effect as if it's sort of been there a while. So it's not just completely flat. And then I've also to that plane mask, I've done a bit of blurring work so that the edges aren't completely straight, they're slightly blurred, and also changed the curves slightly so that there's a little less contrast, just so it fits in with the rest of the video better. So if you were to go through and render that video now, you should get something pretty much like what I had, but of course not with the color corrections. I can leave you to work out how to do the color corrections. I'll post a screenshot of the color correction nodes on Facebook and on Google Plus and on my new Twitter account, where you can follow me at 52hider3d. You can also tweet me with any questions, or of course leave messages on Facebook or Google Plus, or below this video if you can't be bothered to change your tab. So thanks for watching. Yeah, post any questions or tweet them to me, etc. Happy New Year. I will be back with the second part of this series about tracking fairly soon. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.